The valve fails at 7:18 a.m. It does not crack slowly. It does not give warning through vibration or leak. One moment, the brass gate valve holds 1,200 pounds per square inch of superheated steam at 480 degrees Fahrenheit. The next moment, the threads strip completely from the bonnet, and the entire valve assembly launches backward like a cannon projectile. The steam that follows moves at the speed of sound. It fills the enclosed pump room in 2.3 seconds. The men inside do not have time to reach the door. They do not have time to scream. The steam is invisible. Superheated beyond the boiling point, it exists as a transparent gas until it contacts human skin, where it instantly condenses, transferring 540 calories of energy per gram of water formed. This is not burning. This is instantaneous cooking. The first 3 operators die within 15 seconds. The expanding cloud forces its way through the pump room door, which someone left propped open to improve ventilation in the summer heat. It moves down the central corridor of the processing facility at 40 miles per hour, a silent tsunami of molecules traveling faster than any man can run. By 7:19 a.m., 1 minute after the initial failure, 37 men are dead or dying. By 7:23 a.m., when emergency ventilation finally evacuates enough steam to allow entry, the death toll reaches 81. In the hospital over the following 6 days, as lungs fail and burned tissue releases toxins into bloodstreams, 51 more will die. The final count, 132 men. The location, Hazelwood Steam Station, Unit 4, Harrison County, West Virginia. The date, August 14, 1978. The cause, a $3 brass valve installed in a system designed for steel. But to understand how 132 men come to die from a single valve failure, you must understand the system they serve. The American coal-fired power station represents the industrial backbone of 20th century electrification. By 1978, facilities like Hazelwood Steam Station generate 68% of the nation's electricity. The principle is Victorian. Burn coal to boil water, use steam to spin turbines, convert rotation to electrical current. The scale is modern. Hazelwood's 4 units consume 14,000 tons of coal daily. The boilers in Unit 4 alone produce 4.2 million pounds of steam per hour. This steam enters the system at 1,050 degrees Fahrenheit and 2,500 psi. It drives turbines spinning at 3,600 revolutions per minute, generating 750 megawatts. Enough electricity for 600,000 homes. The facility operates 24 hours daily, every day, because demand never stops, and the economic penalty for shutdown is catastrophic. Hazelwood employs 847 people. It pays property taxes that fund 30% of Harrison County's budget. The coal comes from mines within 50 miles, employing another 2,300 men. When economic analysts calculate acceptable risk in facilities like Hazelwood, they weigh potential casualties against regional economic collapse. This is never stated in safety briefings. It is always present in maintenance budgets. The power station exists in a regulatory gap. It is too large to inspect thoroughly, too essential to shut down for upgrades, too politically connected to prosecute for violations. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration has 7 inspectors for all of West Virginia's heavy industry. They visit Hazelwood once every 4 years. If you subscribe to channels documenting how industrial economics override human safety, you would understand this pattern repeats across every heavy industry in America during this era. If you have not yet subscribed, the button waits below. The stories continue. The steam system inside Unit 4 consists of 127 miles of piping, 3,400 valves, 890 pressure sensors, and 56 pump stations. Superheated steam behaves differently from ordinary steam. At atmospheric pressure, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, producing visible steam, water vapor mixed with tiny liquid droplets. Under pressure, water remains liquid far above its normal boiling point. When this superheated water suddenly depressurizes, it undergoes explosive phase change. The energy release equals that of high explosives. Engineers call this flashing. In steam systems, flashing occurs when pipes rupture, valves fail, or seals break. The danger zone extends 30 feet from any failure point. Within this radius, survival is measured in seconds of exposure. The steam itself is invisible, a transparent gas moving at supersonic speed. You do not see the danger. You feel heat, and then you are inside it. Your first breath sears your lungs, your skin blisters instantly, your eyes cloud as corneal proteins denature. If the exposure exceeds 5 seconds, your core body temperature rises past the point of survival. If it exceeds 10 seconds, you die where you stand. Every man working in Unit 4 knows this. They walk past high-pressure lines every shift. They hear the pipes sing with thermal expansion. They feel the radiating heat through insulation. They do not speak about the danger, because speaking it aloud makes it real, and making it real makes it unbearable, and the job must continue because mortgages must be paid and children must be fed. The youngest operator in Unit 4 is 19 years old. The oldest is 63. The average length of employment is 16 years. They know the system. They trust it because they must. But the system contains flaws invisible to the operators. The pump room where the valve fails houses the feed-water circulation system. This system's purpose: move condensed steam from the turbine back to the boiler for reheating. The water travels at 250 gallons per minute, driven by pumps generating 15 horsepower. To control flow, engineers install gate valves, simple devices consisting of a wedge-shaped gate that lowers into the flow path. The valve in question is a 3-inch brass model manufactured by Jenkins Brothers of Bridgeport, Connecticut, catalog number 329-B. The specification sheet, filed in a cabinet no one consults, clearly states, maximum rated pressure, 600 psi. Maximum rated temperature, 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Application, low-pressure steam, water service. The pump room operates at 1,200 pounds per square inch and 480 degrees Fahrenheit. The valve is installed anyway. Why? Because the original specification called for steel valves, but the purchasing department received a bulk discount on surplus brass valves from a naval shipyard decommissioning. The savings, $247,000 across all 4 units. The requisition is approved by a regional manager who never visits the facility. The installation is performed by contractors who assume engineers have verified compatibility. No one checks. The valve enters service in April 1976. It operates for 28 months before failure. During this time, thermal cycling, repeated heating and cooling, causes the brass to embrittle. Brass loses 40% of its tensile strength at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. The threads connecting the bonnet to the valve body stretch microscopically with each thermal expansion. Inspection records show the valve was visually checked during a maintenance shutdown in March 1978. The inspector looks for external leaks. He does not disassemble the valve. He does not measure thread engagement. He does not compare the installed component against engineering specifications. He checks a box on a form. The form goes into a file. The file goes into a cabinet. The valve continues to operate, the threads growing thinner with each shift. What happened at Hazelwood was not unprecedented. 7 years earlier, on December 22, 1971, a feedwater valve fails at Morrow Generating Station in Louisiana. The resulting steam release kills 9 operators. The investigative report identifies brass valves installed in high-pressure systems. The recommendation: replace all brass valves with steel equivalents in systems exceeding 600 psi. The report circulates through industry safety committees. It is discussed at a conference in Atlanta. It is filed. No regulatory agency mandates action. The language is recommendation, not requirement. Hazelwood's management receives a copy. A junior engineer proposes a valve audit. The cost estimate, $340,000 in parts, plus $890,000 in shutdown time for Unit 4 alone. The proposal is denied. 3 years later, in 1974, a similar failure occurs at Cumberland Steam Plant in Tennessee. This time, 6 men die. The failure mechanism: brass valve threads stripped under thermal stress. The investigative report repeats the same findings. It is more strongly worded. It uses terms like industry-wide vulnerability and foreseeable catastrophic failure. It recommends immediate inspections. It is sent to 340 power generation facilities nationwide. Hazelwood receives it. The facility manager reads it. He forwards it to Corporate Safety Division. Corporate Safety Division conducts a risk-benefit analysis. The analysis concludes the probability of valve failure at any specific facility is 0.002% per year. The expected cost of failure, calculated using average wrongful death settlements, is $4.7 million. The cost of comprehensive valve replacement, $38 million across all company facilities. The decision is filed under deferred maintenance. No valves are replaced. If you work in heavy industry, you recognize this pattern: warnings ignored, recommendations deferred, costs prioritized over lives. If you've witnessed similar calculations, share your experience in the comments below. The workers deserve these stories told. The community around Hazelwood Station knows the facility is dangerous. Everyone knows someone who has been burned, injured, or scarred. The injuries are called industrial accidents, language that implies randomness, acts of God, unforeseeable events. But the men know better. They know which valves leak, and they know which pipes vibrate. They know which pressure gauges read 10% high. They know which supervisors tolerate shortcuts and which inspectors actually inspect. This knowledge is informal, passed operator to operator during shift changes, never written down, never officially acknowledged. The plant management knows the operators know, but the knowledge remains unspoken because making it explicit would require action, and action would require money, and money would reduce quarterly profits, and reduced profits would trigger corporate intervention. So the knowledge stays underground, a shadow safety system running parallel to the official procedures. Families participate in this silence. Wives do not ask what their husbands do in the high-pressure sections. Children do not question why their fathers shower before coming into the house, washing away coal dust and the smell of hot metal. The community depends on Hazelwood for survival. The average operator earns $24,000 annually, 50% above the county median. Benefits include health insurance, pension, life insurance. The life insurance pays double for accidental death. The operators joke darkly, "We're worth more dead than alive." In August 1978, 247 families in Harrison County depend directly on Hazelwood paychecks. Another 680 families depend on coal mining contracts feeding the plant. To protest safety conditions is to risk termination. To risk termination is to risk poverty. So men accept the danger. They learn the informal rules, they watch the pressure gauges, they listen to the pipes, and they hope their shift ends before the system fails. August 14th, 1978 begins as an ordinary Monday. Unit 4 has operated continuously for 63 days since its last scheduled maintenance. The overnight shift reports no abnormalities. Pressure readings are normal, flow rates are steady. The day shift arrives at 6 a.m. 39 operators report to their stations. In the pump room, 3 men begin their rounds. Thomas Richter, age 42, 17 years with the company. David Moss, age 36, 11 years. Carl Hoffman, age 28, 5 years. Their assignment: monitor feed water pumps, check valve positions, log pressure readings every 30 minutes. The room is loud. Pumps generate 90 decibels, requiring hearing protection. It is hot. Pipes radiate enough heat to raise ambient temperature to 95 degrees despite ventilation fans. The men prop the door open, violating procedure, because the alternative is heat exhaustion. At 7:15 a.m., Richter logs the pressure reading from gauge FW347, 1,180 psi, normal range. He does not notice the brass valve 18 inches from the gauge beginning its final failure. The threads have now lost 68% of their original engagement. The bonnet is held by 3 threads instead of 11. At 7:17 a.m., a routine pressure fluctuation occurs. A pump downstream cycles on, briefly increasing line pressure to 1,240 pounds per square inch. This is within system tolerances. The valve has experienced this fluctuation 9,400 times during its service life. This time, the remaining threads strip simultaneously. The bonnet separates from the valve body. It travels backward at 73 miles per hour, propelled by steam pressure. It strikes the concrete wall and shatters. The steam exits the valve body at Mach 1.2. The sound is a shriek, metal tearing, air itself rupturing. Richter turns toward the sound. He has 1.4 seconds before the steam reaches him. He sees nothing. The steam is invisible. He feels the temperature spike. He opens his mouth to shout. The steam enters his lungs. He is dead in 8 seconds, still standing, his body not yet understanding it has stopped living. Moss and Hoffman hear the sound. They run for the door. Moss is closer, 7 feet. Hoffman is 10 feet away. The steam expands spherically, faster than they can move. Moss reaches the threshold. He makes it into the corridor. He takes 3 steps before the steam overtakes him. He falls forward. His hands slap the concrete. He does not rise. Hoffman never reaches the door. The steam envelops him 5 feet short. He collapses instantly. Inside the pump room, temperature reaches 480 degrees in 4 seconds. The air becomes unbreathable, not from toxins, but from heat. Breathing superheated air causes instantaneous lung damage. The alveoli, tiny air sacs where oxygen enters the bloodstream, denature like egg whites in a pan. Even if the steam exposure is brief, even if rescue comes quickly, the lungs no longer function. Death follows by hypoxia, slow suffocation as the body desperately tries to extract oxygen from destroyed tissue. In the corridor, the steam continues its expansion. It moves under pressure, forced through the doorway like water through a breach. The corridor is 8 feet wide, 12 feet high, 140 feet long. It connects the pump room to the main control area. 14 operators are in this corridor when the steam arrives. They see Moss fall. They see the air shimmer, not with visible steam, but with heat distortion. Some turn to run. Some freeze. Some reach for emergency alarms. The steam moves faster than decision-making. It flows over them, around them, into them. 9 die in the corridor. 5 reach doorways into adjacent rooms, carrying the steam with them. The destruction does not end in the corridor. Steam is compressible. Unlike water, it expands to fill available volume. As the pump room empties, the steam pressure forces the cloud through every opening. It flows through cable conduits. It rises through ventilation shafts. It seeps under doors. The control room, theoretically isolated by pressure doors, receives steam through the cable trench, a 6-inch gap where electrical cables pass beneath the wall. 4 operators in the control room die at their stations, killed by steam rising from the floor. The turbine hall, 200 feet from the pump room, receives steam through the overhead ventilation system. The steam is cooler now, down to 280 degrees, but still lethal. 6 men working on turbine maintenance die from inhalation burns. They are killed by air too hot to breathe. In the auxiliary equipment room, where switchgear and transformers occupy a space the size of a warehouse, steam enters through open doorways. The room contains 18 operators performing routine maintenance. 14 die. 4 survive because they happen to be working inside metal equipment cabinets when the steam arrives. The cabinets, designed to contain electrical fires, also contain breathable air for 90 seconds, long enough for the steam to dissipate. These men emerge to find their co-workers dead on the floor, no visible injuries, no blood, just bodies collapsed in place. The steam has moved through 6 separate rooms, traveled through 4 ventilation systems, and descended through 3 floor levels. The affected area totals 34,000 square feet. The time elapsed since initial failure: 4 minutes. At 7:23 a.m., the emergency ventilation activates automatically, responding to temperature sensors. Massive exhaust fans evacuate the steam in 120 seconds. The temperature drops to survivable levels. Rescue teams enter wearing breathing apparatus. They find bodies everywhere. Some are severely burned, skin blackened and split. Others appear untouched externally. They died from inhalation, their lungs destroyed invisibly. The rescue teams work methodically, checking for survivors, tagging bodies, establishing perimeters. They find Thomas Richter still standing in the pump room, dead on his feet, his hands gripping a pipe for balance. They find David Moss face down in the corridor, his hands scraped raw where he clawed at concrete trying to rise. They find operators slumped over control panels, operators collapsed in doorways, operators curled in corners where they tried to escape. The initial count, 64 dead at scene. Another 17 die during transport. The hospital in Clarksburg, 12 miles away, receives 49 operators with severe burns and inhalation injuries. The emergency room is overwhelmed. Doctors perform triage in the parking lot. 31 operators are transferred to regional burn centers in Pittsburgh and Charleston. Over the following 6 days, 51 more die from infection, from organ failure, from the systemic shock of massive burns. The final death, Carl Hoffman's father, occurs on August 20th. He was not inside Unit 4 during the failure. He was working in Unit 2, 400 feet away. When he learns his son is dead, he suffers a massive coronary. The official count lists 132 deaths. The community counts 133. The investigation begins before the bodies are removed. The company dispatches a crisis management team from corporate headquarters in Richmond. They arrive by helicopter at 11 a.m., 4 hours after the failure. Their first action: secure all maintenance records, inspection logs, and engineering documents. These are removed from the facility and placed in legal custody. Their second action: issue a preliminary statement attributing the failure to an unforeseeable equipment malfunction resulting from metal fatigue. The statement is carefully worded. Unforeseeable suggests no negligence. Metal fatigue implies natural aging, an act of God. The word brass does not appear. The fact that the valve was improperly rated does not appear. The previous warnings about brass valves do not appear. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration arrives on August 16th. They conduct a 3-day inspection. They find the shattered valve bonnet. They identify it as brass. They review purchasing records and discover the bulk discount substitution. They review engineering specifications and confirm the valve was rated for less than half the system's operating pressure. Their preliminary finding, willful violation of pressure vessel safety standards resulting in multiple fatalities. The company responds with a 340-page technical rebuttal arguing that industry practice allowed brass valves in steam service, that no specific regulation prohibited the substitution, and that reasonable engineering judgment supported the installation. The legal battle consumes 4 years. OSHA proposes $4.2 million in fines. The company appeals. The fine is negotiated to $470,000. No individual faces criminal charges. The company's legal argument succeeds because it is technically accurate. In 1978, no federal regulation explicitly prohibits brass valves in high-pressure steam systems. The regulation exists as industry recommendation. Recommendations cannot be enforced. They can be ignored without penalty. But the deeper question remains, why does the system allow this pattern to repeat? The answer lies in the economic structure of regulated monopolies. Hazelwood Station is owned by Appalachian Power Company, a subsidiary of American Electric Power, one of the nation's largest utilities. As a regulated monopoly, the company is guaranteed a fixed rate of return on invested capital, typically 12%. This creates a perverse incentive. The more capital the company invests, the more profit it earns. However, maintenance and safety improvements are classified as operating expenses, not capital investments. Operating expenses reduce profit margins. They are minimized. Capital investments, new construction, system expansions increase the rate base and guarantee higher profits. They are prioritized. An executive who spends $38 million replacing valves receives no reward. He reduces quarterly earnings. An executive who defers that expense and invests in new construction increases company value. The incentive structure makes dead workers externalities, like pollution or waste, costs to be managed, not prevented. When a disaster occurs, the company pays settlements. These settlements are classified as operating expenses and passed to customers through rate increases. The company's profit margin remains unchanged. No executive loses compensation. No board member faces consequences. The system is designed to prioritize capital over lives, and it functions exactly as designed. The men in Unit 4 die not from accident, but from economic calculation. Their deaths are foreseeable, quantifiable, and accepted as the cost of maintaining profit margins. If you've witnessed this pattern in your own industry, where worker safety is subordinated to quarterly earnings, share that story in the comments. These patterns only change when silence ends. The aftermath transforms nothing systemically, but it transforms everything locally. Harrison County buries 132 men over 3 weeks. The funerals merge into a continuous ritual of grief. The Methodist Church holds services every morning. The Catholic Church holds services every afternoon. The community is too small to absorb this loss invisibly. Every family knows someone who died. Every child loses a father, uncle, or neighbor. The psychological term is collective trauma, when an entire community experiences the same catastrophic event simultaneously. The symptoms persist for decades: elevated rates of depression, substance abuse, divorce, suicide. The widows receive settlements averaging $380,000, calculated using actuarial tables that value a 40-year-old man's remaining lifetime earnings. The money does not compensate. It quantifies the loss in dollars, making explicit the economic exchange, your husband's life for a check. Many widows never cash the checks. They frame them as memorials, paper tombstones hung in hallways. The operators who survived carry different scars. 37 men were inside Unit 4, but outside the steam's path. They heard the valve fail. They heard the screaming, brief, cut short. They smelled the burned meat. They walked past bodies of men they'd worked beside for years. 12 develop post-traumatic stress disorder, 9 attempt suicide, 4 succeed. The survivor support group meets weekly for 6 years, then monthly, then dissolves as members move away or die. By 2010, only 3 survivors remain in Harrison County. They do not speak about August 14, 1978. The memory is too heavy to carry in conversation. The regulatory response is bureaucratic and incremental. OSHA issues a directive requiring pressure vessel component audits at all coal-fired power stations nationwide. The directive includes no deadline and no enforcement mechanism. It is a suggestion. In 1980, Congress passes the Thermal Power Safety Act, mandating quarterly inspections of high-pressure steam systems. The law includes no funding for additional inspectors. Compliance is self-reported. In 1982, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers updates its boiler code to explicitly prohibit brass components in systems exceeding 600 psi and 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the change that matters. It is specific, technical, and enforceable. Engineers can no longer claim ignorance. Purchasing departments can no longer substitute cheaper materials. Inspectors have a clear standard. Slowly, across 5 years, brass valves are removed from high-pressure systems nationwide. The cost totals $340 million industry-wide. Not a single utility executive proposes delaying the replacement. The liability exposure after Hazelwood makes compliance cheaper than risk. This is the calculus that actually drives change, not moral outrage, not regulatory mandate, but legal liability exceeding compliance cost. The men in Unit 4 die to establish that liability threshold. Their deaths become the data point that shifts the cost-benefit analysis. This is how industrial safety advances in America, not through foresight, but through body counts sufficient to alter economic calculations. Hazelwood Station continues operating. Unit 4 resumes electricity generation in November 1978, 3 months after the disaster. The pump room is rebuilt. The valves are replaced with steel. The corridor is reconfigured with blast doors. The facility employs 680 people, down from 847. Recruitment is difficult. The region's young men choose unemployment over employment at Hazelwood. The facility compensates by increasing wages 22%. This makes economic sense. Higher wages cost less than another disaster. The station operates until 2015, when it is decommissioned due to updated environmental regulations. The final shutdown is uneventful. The last operators leave quietly, taking their toolboxes and memories. The cooling towers are demolished in 2017. The turbine hall is razed in 2018. By 2020, the site is an empty field beside the Monongahela River. Nothing marks the location where 132 men died. No monument, no plaque, no memorial. The company opposed any permanent marker, fearing it would constitute legal admission of liability. The county lacked funds to construct one independently. The memory exists in obituaries, in whispered stories, in the nightmares of survivors now in their 70s and 80s. If you believe these men deserve remembrance, If you believe their deaths should mean something beyond legal settlements, then subscribe to this channel and share this story. Industrial disasters fade from public memory within a generation. Only deliberate remembering prevents that erasure. The button waits below. The lesson of Hazelwood is not complex. It is brutally simple. Economic systems optimize for profit, not safety. When those systems are inadequately regulated, when recommendations replace requirements, when enforcement is underfunded and penalties are negotiable, then workers die preventably, repeatedly, predictably. The men in Unit 4 did not die from bad luck or unforeseeable malfunction. They died because a purchasing manager chose savings over specifications, because a regional manager approved substitutions without review, because corporate executives deferred maintenance to protect margins, because regulators issued recommendations without enforcement, because the legal system allowed industry practice to override engineering standards. Every decision was rational within its context. Every individual acted according to their incentives. The system functioned as designed, and 132 men died. This is not anomaly. This is structure. Until the incentive structure changes, until safety violations cost more than compliance, until executives face criminal liability, until regulators possess enforcement power, the pattern continues. Different industries, different technologies, different decades. Same calculation, same outcome. The names change. The body count accumulates. If you work in systems like this, you already know this truth. If you remain silent, the system persists. Speak in the comments. Share your experience. Make the invisible visible. The dead cannot speak. You can.